At this time, I'd like to welcome you to our board meeting. We have some special guests with us this evening, and we're very proud that they can be with us, and they'll be on our program. We also appreciate everyone else that's here this evening. At this time, we have Reverend Trey Harris from Hope Mills United Methodist Church to lead us in our invocation, which will be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance from the Boy Scouts Troop 7116. And I welcome them this evening to be with us, and proud that we've again started back with the Boy Scouts coming to our meetings to lead in the pledge. If you will, all please rise.
If you would, let us pray. Gracious God, we give thanks for this beautiful day that you have given unto us here. We pray that you would be with us, be with the members here at the Town Hall. And we just invite your wisdom to come and help us and help these wonderful leaders to make the best decisions for the community and the members of this community, Lord. As we gather here, we do want to give you the praise and honor and give you all the glory for what you have done in our lives. We conclude this in Jesus' holy name. Amen.
Amen.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And if you will make sure that we get their names, and we have a special certificate that we'll give them for leading us in the pledge. And our town clerk's right there, so just before we leave this evening, thank you. If you will, all please may be seated. At this time, do we have anything that we need to add or delete from our agenda?
Madam Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to request a moment of silence for Ms. Luther and Mr. Morrow.
Okay. And we do have former Commissioner Doris Luther. Her service was yesterday. And then we do have a coach that passed away, Jeff Morrow. And then we do have another member of our family, Hope Mills family, and that's Jim Harris, who passed away last night. So at this time, we'll have a moment of silence for them. Thank you. Now, at this time, do we have any additions or deletions to our agenda?
Motion to approve.
Have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Seeing none opposed, at this time we have official comments. And this evening, I'll start with Commissioner Legg.
Thank you, Mayor. Sure do thank all of you for coming out this evening. Reverend, appreciate the prayer. And the Scouts, I appreciate you being here to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. As the mayor said, we have lost several members of our Hope Mills family, so keep their families in your prayers as you go through the week that's coming up. That's all from me, Madam Mayor.
Commissioner Mitchell.
Good evening, everyone, and thanks for coming out. I want to take this time to say thanks to all the people that came out to support the Community Day event. Look forward to us having a very, very productive meeting tonight. Thank you.
Commissioner Marley.
I don't have anything this time, Mayor.
Commissioner Scarola.
Welcome, everyone. Oops. Welcome, everyone, for being great to see everyone's smiling faces. That's all I have, Mayor.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Hello, everyone, and since we don't have committee reports tonight, I do want to remind everyone that the Hope Mills Prime Movers, they are having a Family Fun Day event on May 13th from 10 to 1 at the golf course. So I just wanted to remind everyone of that. Thank you. That's all.
And also, we have next Saturday, we have opening day, which is for baseball. And then we also have, it's our townwide cleanup, and we also have our yard sale, townwide yard sale. So we encourage you to participate in those, but also know that it'll be a busy Saturday too, with a lot going on in Hope Mills. At this time, we have presentations, and the first will be for Public Safety Building Project, and it's an update presented by Scott Garner, our architect. I'll turn it over to Mr. Garner at this time.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. I'm glad to be with you today, and we'll have a brief report. We are making good progress on the building, I think. We are 94, 95% complete with the building. The building is fully occupied. The sewer line has been a nemesis, but I think that we are in a struggle. But I think today we had the test on the line. It passed. So hopefully tomorrow it will be certified, and later this week the library will be connected, and that will be a major accomplishment in this project. So we are very thankful for that. I would like to say that Sam Powers and Ron Johnson of Fayetteville PWC have been very attentive to this. They have been to almost every meeting. They've been very responsive and very helpful to us in this thing to get it done correctly. We did it a number of times, but we wanted to get it correct, and they made sure that we did. The next issue will be working on the site, completing the site work, which will be the walking trail around Golfview, the parking lot for the firefighters behind their part of the building, and the apparatus apron going out to Golfview. They are the main things that we have to do. And then we will put up the flagpoles at the corner of Golfview and Rockfish. They will have the police and fire memorials with them. It will be a nice place to have a ceremony. So we're looking forward to that. It incorporates the digital sign for the town, so it will be an appropriate place and a nice focal point for the building. And then the last part will be the lighting, site lighting by Duke Power, which is being handled by the town. The interior punch list is being worked on, and we are checking off items as they complete them. But we check each and every one of them to make sure they're done. The contractor's schedule is to be completed in 2 weeks. I think we've heard that before. I think he's a little optimistic. It will take at least a month and maybe a little bit more. So, but we're going to be here for the duration to get it right. I'm happy to report we have no change orders this month, and I hope we can continue in that vein.
We have no more money.
We prefer not to have them. Do we have any questions?
Does anyone have any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're in budget, and we're on time, and we're going to finish.
All righty.
So, thank
All
you
right.
very much.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that.
Just make
Next.
sure we get the flagpole back out of where DOT's gonna put the roundabout.
Feel very fortunate tonight that we have with us some guests from Fort Bragg, soon to be Fort Liberty. And the reason why they're here is because we've had a couple of presentations, and one, the Mayor's Coalition, about the new naming of Fort Bragg, and wanted them to come, and especially since we're being recorded this evening also, to give a kind of an update and an overview and explain what's going to be happening in the upcoming very soon, June 1st and then June 2nd are two big events, but there's some other things that are going to be happening. So we have with us tonight Frank Hannon and Cheryl Rivas, who are with Public Relations. They're going to be changing to Fort Liberty Public Relations instead of Fort Bragg. Colonel Wilcox, and then I know it's Seymour, but I always get all my titles messed up. Command Sergeant Major, is that right? Is that close enough?
That's it.
Well, see, I've got garrison commanders, and I've got colonels and brigadier generals and all these things. So welcome. Thank you for coming this evening, and I'm going to turn it over to you at this time to share with us the information that I think is going to be so important for our community, since we do have a large veterans and active military population.
Yes, ma'am. Well, Madam Mayor and esteemed members of the council, thanks so much for inviting us over and to come speak with you this evening. I am Colonel John Wilcox. I'm the Garrison Commander for Fort Bragg. Joining me is my taller and better looking counterpart, Command Sergeant Major Greg Seymour, who, between the two of us, we've got about 35 years spent at Fort Bragg. And I think it's important to start there because a young Captain Wilcox signed into Fort Bragg in 2007. I have since planted roots in the Fort Bragg community. 2 of 3 of my children were born just up the road from here. I have spent most of my deployment time, my family has spent here immersed in this community and supported and lifted up in this community. I have also been honored to serve alongside teammates who are memorialized in memorials on Fort Bragg because they could not come back with us. They'd given their lives, given their utmost on behalf of liberty. And so I'm here today to tell you that my personal experience, my lived experience here in the Army is every bit part of Fort Bragg. I am part of the Fort Bragg history. And I'm going to let Command Sergeant Major tell his history as well. It goes even further than mine. But it's important to state that we don't approach the redesignation of the installation flippantly or without cause. More importantly, the community has not approached the redesignation of Fort Bragg flippantly or without purpose or cause. So at the beginning, some of you may recall when the message came to us that it was time to potentially redesignate the post. We gathered together members of the community, elected officials, members of the veterans community, civilians, people who were not necessarily serving in uniform but were connected by virtue of family, by virtue of service, by virtue of responsibility to the community. That community came together and initially started to look at who we might potentially name the installation after. There were 50 names to choose from the Medal of Honor list. 50 individuals who had either given their utmost or had served above and beyond the call of duty and were awarded with the Medal of Honor. How do you pick one act of heroism amongst many acts of heroism? When you open the aperture up a little bit further and you look at options for the namesake of Fort Bragg, we looked at command sergeants major, we looked at senior colonels, general officers who potentially could own the name and own the name of the installation in which we serve. That list very quickly reached hundreds, if not thousands. We sent a survey out to the community asking what potentially could we name the installation. 14,000 names came back. Ladies and gentlemen, I propose to you the impossible question that committee, the committee that came together to redesignate Fort Bragg, was given. It was an impossible one. They were not going to pick one hero out of many. They were not going to pick one act of heroism out of many acts of heroism. And in the midst of trying to deliberate and discuss what potentially the name could be, who would be the right name for the installation, a Gold Star mother stood up and looked at everyone in the room and said, "Ladies and gentlemen, we are never going to decide on one name. But my son did not die for one name. My son died for liberty." And so very quickly, the entire group circled around the idea that maybe what we should be looking for is an aspirational term, something that appeals to the entire community, something that ascribes to the values that every single soldier, sailor, airman, and Marine who serves on Fort Bragg agrees to when they raise their right hand. That term, ladies and gentlemen, is liberty. When we looked into the histories of the organizations and units on post, we looked into the first line of the 82nd song. It clearly states, "We are soldiers of liberty." When we looked into other units on post, the Special Forces Regiment you may be familiar with serves on the installation. Was in many ways born on Fort Bragg. On their crest it says, "De oppressa liber," to free the oppressed, liber being the Latin derivation of liberty. Not too far from here, our forefathers and foremothers, if you will, signed on to the Liberty Point Accords, signing up North Carolina as part of the revolution in 1775, signing on for the cause of liberty. Ladies and gentlemen, I ascribe to you today that we have always, on this installation, served the cause of liberty. And so the change of name is nothing more than a slight adjustment in terms of naming to what we have always done every single day since 1918. We have marched towards liberty. Sergeant Major.
Madam Mayor, Commissioners, I'm Command Sergeant Major Seymour. I've been assigned to Fort Bragg since 1997. And I would tell you from the bottom of my heart, there's no place that I'd rather be than right here in the local area of North Carolina in Fayetteville. This has been my home for my whole entire career, going on 26 years straight. I could have left and chose any other installation in the Army, but I chose to stay here. And I would tell you that when this came about, you know, there were some disgruntled employees, things of that nature, to include myself, and never understood the method behind the madness on why and how we got here. And as I transitioned to this job, and as I was transitioning into what is now becoming Fort Liberty a reality, I would tell you that I firmly stand behind this, because as a 19-year-old, when I first joined the military, as the Army has transitioned back to be all you can be, that's what I signed up for, was be all you can be. And at the time, I've deployed multiple times, as many times as the Colonel has, on different campaigns that this installation has been a part of. And I would tell you that, yes, we're changing the name to Fort Liberty, but the mission of this installation will never change. This will still be the premier platform for our nation. When the nation calls, they will always call this installation to fight across any globe, anywhere around the globe, on any piece of earth that they will allow us to fight. Whether it's to liberate anywhere in World War II in Europe, to where we're fighting now, to our whoever our near peer competitors, our enemies will be next. I will tell you that, you know, I used to call my soldiers freedom fighters, but now I call them liberation fighters, because it describes the efforts of the past, the present, and the future, and the ones that have paid the ultimate sacrifice through global war and terrorism, all the way up to our current Inherent Resolve campaigns. And I couldn't find a better term that describes everyone. And one of the best things about the Gold Star Mom had also said is that if we name it after one person, we're going to forget about the efforts of everybody else who contributed to our nation's freedom. So I tell you that 100% Liberty describes every person in North Carolina who has fought and died and served out of this installation.
So how do we capture something as significant as a name change while still honoring the past and honoring those who served, those who gave the ultimate sacrifice? We were challenged to find a single event that would do so, but we think we found it, and we think we found something that can be inclusive to the entire community, not just simply done on post, something we can invite all of our neighbors to come join us as we do it. So some background to the Sunset Liberty March. In Nijmegen, during the Battle of Newmarket, 43 paratroopers lost their lives in the taking of the Wall River Bridge in the attempt to liberate Nijmegen. Fast forward to about 8 years ago, a group of Dutch veterans, to honor the sacrifice of those 43 veterans, got together and decided that they were going to install a series of lights, and you can see those lights across the bridge right there. That's the Wall River Bridge. Would set up a series of lights that would light in sequence at night when dusk finally fell. And at marching pace every night, an honored veteran of the evening would then march across the bridge in sequence with those lights, honoring the fallen paratroopers who had given their lives for liberty. That unit, that event has gained so much traction in Nijmegen that it is not uncommon to have 50, 60, 300, 400, depending on the night, people join that honored veteran as they cross the bridge. And so we were challenged by the senior commander, Lieutenant General Donahue, to come up with an event that matches the importance of this, the solemnity of this, honoring the past, honoring the sacrifice, but looking forward in a way that is meaningful. And so on the left there, you will see the view that we intend for for the honored veterans. Beginning on June the 1st, an honored veteran of the day will begin marching up the hill, starting at what is now Liberty Park. It used to be Fort Bragg Boulevard. It is now Liberty Park, starting at around, if you think about where Randolph ACP is, that's about where that statue is standing. So we're about one street south, looking up towards the top of that hill. It's about about a half a mile or so march. Every night, the lighted bollards to the left and to the right of that bricked-in road will begin lighting in sequence. The bricks themselves will represent timelines that the beginning with Camp Bragg, moving into Fort Bragg, and then onto Fort Liberty, celebrating the units that are part of the installation's storied past. And also, honoring the fallen. Many times we hear from our veterans that are part of our community, and we're very proud of them, but we do hear that they're worried about forgetting about the past in the process of redesignation. I assure you that is absolutely forefront in our minds, is making sure that we are not forgetting the past. Moreover, we are honoring the fallen and honoring our past in a way we probably should have for a long time now. Our investment in this project is symbolic in multiple ways, but we are absolutely committed to making this happen. So we ask the entire community, come join us, if not on the 1st, then join us at one of the other events for the March to Liberty. Every single night, 365 days a year, we will conduct the Sunset Liberty March. Without fail, rain or shine, we will have an honored veteran of the day. Thanks to a great partnership with the Cumberland County Veterans Association, we have a means of now managing that process, and we will make sure that we have an honored veteran. And of course, uniformed service members will come join us, and we ask the community to come join us. Again, 365 days a year, rain or shine, we'll be there at nightfall. Sergeant Major.
Ladies and gentlemen, so what is so symbolic about this memorial that the Colonel and I had the chance to experience in Nijmegen? So the country of Nijmegen, they're honoring folks who have fought and died, who helped liberate that country, but those people who have died there are people that came from this installation. There's what was so symbolic about it and touching for me. I had the chance and opportunity to be a reenactor, and I actually paddled across that river with a bunch of other reenactors, and once I hit the beach sand of the other side, and it came up across the hill on the crest. So parts of the original bridge was still there, and they had a ginormous imprint of the 82nd patch that was there, but they had another part of the stone of the bridge that's there, and had every single American that served during that conflict's name, where they're from, and their rank and their unit that was still there. So we took that same concept and brought it back here so we can make sure that everybody knows and understands that we are and will never forget the ones who paved the way for our nation.
Next slide. So we also want to offer up other opportunities because community is important to Fort Bragg. And I'm going to move through respecting time because I know we've gone probably a little longer than we should. But we want to highlight a few things that we're working on the installation. One is we are back open for business when it comes to community events. So on the top left there, you'll see Fort Bragg Fair. We are very proud to welcome back our contract partners who will come back and set up the fair on our installation. That will be from the 3rd of May to the 14th of May. We will provide trying to open up the gates as much as we possibly can to allow access, but again, there will be you'll need to get a pass through the All-American Gate as normal. That's not the case necessarily at the 4th of July. I'm very proud to announce that we will have Sheryl Crow as our headliner for 4th of July. So if you are interested in listening to Sheryl Crow, a multi-Grammy winner, performing for us, and then Gavin DeGraw is going to be our lead act. So that's a fantastic event. We're going to essentially repeat the same safety protocols and security protocols we did as last year that brought 65,000 members onto our installation. We would love to see that same number again, maybe a few more if the fire marshal's not paying attention, and have a time for fellowship as a community. We want to be as plugged in with the community as we can be, and we want to invite as many people on post who are willing to come on post, have a good time safely and securely. And finally, All-American Week. Anybody with an affiliation with the 82nd knows the importance of All-American Week. I don't need to go into a whole lot of details other than to say there's a whole bunch of events happening this year, and for the first time in a while, it is going to be wide open to all former alumni of the 82nd Division. May 22nd to the 25th are the dates for that. I want to talk a little bit about road repairs because I know this is something that affects many folks in the immediate area, whether you live way out in Moore County or whether you live in Fayetteville. Roads on Fort Bragg are certainly in a condition that need some attention. We are not going to kick that particular can down the road any further. So I'm focusing particularly on these roads because we recognize that while these were originally conceptualized as range roads, so they were for training units to go in and out to get access from the main cantonment area to the range areas. They really have become another means of main ingress for people who live out in some of these areas like Fort County, Bickford, or Hope Mills. And so we very much want to make sure that we're putting the right amount of investment in this. So over the next 3 to 5 years, we're going to put about $45 to $52 million worth of investment. Thanks to a great partnership with the NC Department of Transportation, we're able to do that at a much cheaper cost than we probably originally would. They can do it at about 60% of the cost that the DOD can. And even better is we're going to hand those roads off to the DOT once it is up to their standard for upkeep. We're very appreciative of that. This helps us a lot, and we can start to focus some of those resources back on the main cantonment area where they are very badly needed. I want to talk for a second about exceptional family member programs. So some of you may be familiar with exceptional family member programs, but I want to focus on our children. We were recently very blessed to have all of the county educational leaders at Fort Bragg over at Smith Lake about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and we were discussing many of the issues that your educators have in trying to get ahead of some of the problems that they face. One of them, probably unsurprisingly, is resources. We've had those same problems on DODEA schools. We also recognize that critically, while the problems that your schools are facing are not unique to any one part of the community, the military community is absolutely invested in your success because we are a part of this community. And so we ask for continued partnership both through the AFMP program focused on children with special needs and unique needs. And Sergeant Major and I both have a child of special needs, and so this is something very near and dear to our hearts, but the Purple Star program as well. Both of these programs are designed for children and for family members of special needs, but we're focusing right now on kids. As we all know, COVID took a toll both on the education track of our children, and it also had an impact on their mental health. We want to help focus those resources in the right direction. Purple Star program is a great opportunity to partner with you and ensure that your schools are getting the resources that they need. I've placed the point of contact down there, but please reach out to us because we want to be a part of the process in helping every school that has military-affiliated kids get the resources that they need. Finally, I want to talk about the Defense Community Infrastructure Pilot. This is a pilot wherein DOD and the federal government have partnered up at the state level and tried to identify projects that potentially will both serve the military community and the off-post community. It is designed for projects off-post. And so these are things that we can jointly work on to help scope for the betterment of your community. And that runs the gamut from potentially green or net zero type projects to sports and utility projects for the local community. These are things we absolutely want to partner with on you. So if you take anything away from the latter part of our brief, it is this. While we may be redesignating Fort Bragg, this is an inflection point for us. We focus very much on plugging back into, being more inviting to the community, and being a more participative member of the community. We want to find every possible opportunity we can to have our community surrounding us beyond the installation and also continue to remain plugged in with what's going on in your communities. Because to us, while there may be a gate, there really isn't a line between the two. We also recognize that this is a military community that prides itself on what goes on our installation. I am here to tell you that the status of Fort Bragg, the status of Fort Liberty is very, very strong and getting stronger every single day. Thank you very much for the time. Thank you for what you do for the community. I'll stand by for questions if you have.
All right, does anyone have any questions?
Madam Mayor, I'd just like to thank you for your service and all your hard work, and everyone else I hear that has done the service to our community, our state, our country. We're honored to have Commissioner Mitchell and Commissioner Scarola here that are military retired, and it's kind of hard to go through the name change, but we'll make it. We'll make it.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Madam Mayor,
Yes, sir.
just because of our vast military population out here in the community, while you was talking, I was just thinking, I said, you know what, it'd be a good idea, and if it's at the pleasure of the board and our town manager, that Garrison Commander can come out here and do this once a quarter or as necessary to keep us informed what's going on out here in Fort Bragg. I think it would bridge the gap of the miscommunication that we have out here.
would be our honor. We would just say when, we'll be here.
Yeah.
Too easy.
Commissioner Morrow, you have anything?
No, ma'am, not this time.
Okay.
You gonna tell them about your time in the military, Grilly?
When I was in the military,
I have nothing.
Okay, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you.
Yeah.
inside joke we have up
Thank
here.
you so much, and we'll give
Mr.
you.
Vietnam after.
Yes, sir.
When are you gonna do something about the tank trap going into Womack All-American? I got four-wheel drive, and
yeah.
sometimes it's hard for me to make it through.
Oh, yeah, so there's a project set against those,
I was just wondering, cause it's getting real, sometimes you have to block it off because the holes get so bad.
so there's a series of roads on the.
Opened up a can of
I
worms.
notice All-Americans starting to go like this again.
What I can tell you is that we have a comprehensive program right now.
Okay, I'm just asking.
Being focused on those roads, recognizing.
I'm just keeping you youngsters.
That's why you should drive a Jeep, Ron.
I'm on the road and it's four-wheel drive too. You can keep your Jeep.
And Colonel, that's Mr. Vietnam there. Just
That was a Vietnam vet as well.
You're gonna be one, you be a big red one.
This is why we can't have nice things.
Right, and a part of my dirty, nasty legs.
Thanks, sir.
And we will make sure you we'll give you a calendar so that you can pick when you want to come. And we do look forward to you coming. And I look forward to the events coming up. I did my RSVPs today, so I was excited about that. So thank you so much.
Look
And
forward to
thank
having
you again.
Thanks so much.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
All right, he's something else.
Yep, he'll get you.
See, you shouldn't invite me.
At this time, I have a special proclamation, and this is another event happening on April 22nd. Whereas on April 22nd, 1970, 20 million Americans, 10% of the U.S. population at the time, took to the streets, college campuses, and hundreds of cities to protest environmental ignorance and demand a new way forward for our planet. The first Earth Day is credited with launching the modern environmental movement and is now recognized as the planet's largest civic event. Whereas the theme for Earth Day 2023 is Invest in Our Planet, scientists, non-governmental organizations, business, and governments worldwide now are looking at natural system processes and emerging green technologies to restore the world's ecosystems and forests, conserve and rebuild soils, improve farming practices, restore wildlife populations, and rid the world's oceans of plastics. Whereas while the world waits for global political and business leaders to take decisive action to reduce carbon emissions, natural processes including reforestation and soil conservation can store massive amounts of carbon while restoring biodiversity. Clean water and air and rebalancing ecological systems, restoration is pragmatic and necessary to reduce climate change. Whereas the concerned citizens of the town of Hope Mills are dedicated to the protection and preservation of our environment, and on April 22nd, 2023, will participate in the Spring Litter Sweep event, and on April 29th will sponsor a hazardous waste and shred event. Now therefore, I, Jackie Warner, Mayor of the town of Hope Mills, do hereby proclaim April 22nd, 2023, Earth Day in the town of Hope Mills, and urge all citizens to use this time to celebrate our only planet and commit to building a sustainable green economy. Next, public hearings. We have an initial zoning case ZNG-002-23 of 1.2 plus or minus acres to the RR Rural Residential District or to a more restrictive zoning district located at 2308 or 3808 Park Garden Court, submitted by the Town of Hope Mills on behalf of Mauricio Andrade, owner. And I'll turn it over to Emily. Thank you.
Now, you know I can't read.
You got you one?
I've got that one right there. Thank you. Tonight we are going over the initial zoning request for case ZG 002-22. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm still kind of new.
23.
The Town of Hope Mills received a contiguous annexation petition for 1.20 acres of land tied to PIN number 9494-91-2677. Subject property is adjacent to the Preserve at Lake Upchurch subdivision. Access to the property is provided within the existing subdivision. Board of Commissioners accepted the petition under resolution R2023-06 and annexation number A2023-01 and set public hearing for March 6, 2023. Annexation petition was approved with authorization to begin initial zoning to the RR Rural Residential District. RR District matches the zoning of Preserve at Lake Upchurch. The Southwest Cumberland Land Use Plan calls for a suburban residential at this location, and this request is compliant.
All right.
This is the property in question. This is showing how, location of water and sewer. And as you can see, for the Southwest Cumberland Land Use Plan, it is considered to be compliant. And then the last couple are pictures of the entrance to the property. Unless you have any additional questions of me, I ask that the floor be opened up for public hearing to begin.
Motion to open public hearing.
Okay. Is there anyone here at this time that would like to speak in favor of this zoning request? Is there anyone that would like to speak against this zoning request?
Motion to close public hearing.
Public hearing now closed. Any questions for Emily in reference to this zoning request?
Mayor, I make a motion that we approve the initial zoning request to the RR Rural Residential District tied to case ZNG-002-23 and as recommended by the Cumberland County Joint Planning Board and the Town of Hope Mills Planning Staff, and finds that the request is consistent with the Southwest Cumberland Land Use Plan 2013 designation and the economic and regional impact of the proposed development fits within the vision and long-term outlook of the area developed to the immediate south. Approval of the request is reasonable and in the public interest because the district requested is in harmony with surrounding existing uses and zonings.
Second.
Okay.
We have a motion and a second. Any other questions or discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Seeing none opposed. Next, we have public comments. And no one signed up for public comments. All right, next we have our consent agenda. Is there anything that you'd like moved from our consent agenda to new business, or do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion to approve consent agenda.
Have a motion
Second.
have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Seeing none opposed. Next, we have old business, consideration of approving the revised Part 2 Code of Ordinances, Chapter 62, Parks and Recreation. This was tabled from April 3rd meeting, and this is, I'll turn it over to our Parks and Rec Director, Lamarco Morrison, for any questions you may have or any
Madam
information you
Mayor,
need.
Board of Commissioners. At this time, I would like to request that we pull this particular item so that I can tweak it a little bit more. I've heard from a few commissioners that there's still some language that they would like to have corrected, and then it's my understanding that a few still haven't read the ordinance as revised. So what I like to do is tweak it some, and then have Jane email it to all of you all.
Yes.
Take a look at it, and then bring it back in May and put it on consent agenda.
Mayor,
If
so
that's
you want,
appropriate.
that's what I was gonna ask, so May,
Yeah. Yep.
first meeting in May
Be
or
the
second meeting,
May.
second meeting
Give
in
you all
May?
The time, yeah.
ample time to read it and ask questions of me or the town manager, and then once we get it the way we want it, put it on the consent agenda. I think it's probably the
Mayor,
easiest way to
I'd
do
like
it.
to make a motion that we move this item to the second meeting in May.
A second.
Okay, do you have a motion and a second? Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Seeing none opposed.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next, we have consideration of stormwater update to standard and specifications, Chapter 6, Airport Overlay. And I'll turn it over to Beth Brown, stormwater lady.
Okay, so I'm gonna be brief. I think that a couple of you we've talked about the issues with the area that is off 41 out towards 95. Those are all areas that are in our MIA, and we are seeing a lot of development coming out there. So as it stands currently, the state recommendations are to work with the airport and basically do whatever their wishes are. So that leaves it pretty open if you are a developer to start an argument with my opinion. So at a staff level, we have discussed this. I know Commissioner Mitchell and Commissioner Scarola have been to our plan review sessions, and we have talked about it at length on what we can do to try to basically stop people from putting in something that is a huge safety concern. And that safety concern is the fact that anything that holds water is an attractant to avian species, so ducks, geese. We all know what happens when one goose comes in, then he lets all his friends know, and next thing you know, there's 500 of them. Some of the places have deterrents set up, but those require maintenance. So there are about 6 different stormwater control measures and or BMPs that are usable. Some of them are dependent upon the soil, but what we are asking is to make a small change to the standards and specs tonight, which basically just says that we are not going to allow ponding stormwater control measures. So anything that would hold water for more than about 48 hours, because that's anything over the 48 hours is basically when they start kind of coming in and making a home. It also, when it's holding water, it is a habitat for wildlife. So we don't want those near our ponds, in our subdivisions, and I don't think that commercial folks want them either. A lot of times, you know, the developer comes in and puts in whatever's the least expensive, but it's not always the best for maintenance. So with this change, we are putting this in the standards and specs, but we are currently working with a consultant to update all of our stormwater ordinance. So all the sections of the stormwater ordinance will be updated coming. We want to go ahead and get this in, and then we will update the ordinance as we're working on that in the next 2 or 3 months. Does anybody have any questions?
How does this impact someone that's already started a project?
Unfortunately, it doesn't. We have only had one person that has requested, and we said no. And they requested again at a later time, and we also said no. And then they came back a little bit later, and they asked again, but per the ordinance, they were already issued a permit for a non-ponding SEM, so it would require them to resubmit. So right now, we currently don't have anything that has come in since about, that was put in the state ordinance in late 2018, and 2019 is when things started kind of kicking up out there, and we started having to look at where that airport overlay district is, and it was like, oh my God, that's in Hope Mills now. So, and the area that is right there at 95, is actually the main runway for the Fayetteville Airport. And they would prefer that we not allow ponding SEMs, because obviously that's a huge fear for anybody that is with airport operations.
Madam Mayor? I was extremely impressed when they talked about the overlay district and the ordinance policy, and I think that y'all T's are crossed and your I's are dotted, and y'all are very thorough and very detailed. And the key component of that discussion was safety first. And I love the level of discussion that y'all had at the meeting I attended. So, Madam Mayor, I'd like to make that motion that we approve this if there's no discussion.
I'll second that motion because I didn't like ponds when they first started.
What?
No.
Well, I'll be honest, Commissioner Legg, I am not a fan of a wet pond either. They end up getting left and not maintained, and they look gross,
It's
so.
always a good idea. So we'll take care of it. Then they forget it.
Yeah, well, when they come and take care of it, they just mow everything down and then let it grow back up and be ugly again, so.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Seeing none opposed. Thank you, ma'am.
all.
Next, we have consideration of approving Resolution R 2023-14, setting a public hearing for annexation A 2023-04 for property located at 5070 South US Highway 301.
I didn't look at that one. That's the only thing I did not look at.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we approve Resolution R 2023-14, setting a public hearing for annexation A 2023-04 for property located at 5070 South US Highway 301 on May 1st, 2023.
Have a motion, have a second.
I will second that motion.
Have a motion, a second. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Seeing none opposed. Do we have any additions to our manager's report?
Yes, we do. Aside from what you see in your packet, I wanted to you guys, one reason why I had Amy pass out the presentation, you couldn't see that from screen. If you look, that presentation in your hand looks very similar to our meeting packet. This also looks very similar to the latest press release. So what's happening is we're continuing to enhance our marketing initiative. And so, the website is currently being updated with the same color scheme, these new initiatives. And what you also have is a pamphlet that I had sent down to you guys. As you recall, when we did the partnership with the Continuum Care Program for Cumberland County for Homelessness, they have a series of pamphlets that they have it printed up to deliver to the mom's house and to us for police distributed to businesses. This is our notice is similar to everything else. So this is just the continued enhancement of our marketing program. We did put in the budget for a camera so that our public information officer can now start attending some events like this past weekend. We can capture those in photographs, and that can get thrown to our newsletter. As it relates to NCDOT, staff was alerted this weekend to possible traffic issues tied to the T.J. Robinson Life Center on Black Ridge Road this weekend. We're monitoring the issue, but as Black Ridge Road is an NCDOT thoroughfare, our jurisdiction authority is extremely limited. Similar to the Dirtbag L's issue, once they actually meet the parking requirement, there's very limited things we can do as a town if it's a DOT roadway. However, I'm not one to say we can't do anything. And so what we did with Dirtbag L's, we coordinated with NCDOT, they started posting no parking signs on the roadway and things of that nature, so we're doing that as well. I have reached out to the owners of the T.J. Robinson Life Center to possibly explore their interest in helping them facilitate a shared parking agreement with adjacent property. So there are some things we're trying to do, but I wanted to at least give you an update on what I was into.
There was a question I was asked about the capacity of the building. has there been anyone check the number of people inside that building because of the regulations from the fire marshal? And I didn't have an answer because I don't know what the capacity is.
As of right now, the capacity that they're approved for is the original capacity when they opened. There was a request from them to increase that capacity. That requires a new site plan and a new set of plans to be submitted. They did go through a round of revisions with our inspection department, but they have not actually finalized that. So the current capacity is in play. I'll have a fire marshal look into it and make sure they're not violating.
Yes.
That's where we are with that.
Yes, thank you.
Continuing on DEI training, we'll begin this Thursday from 1 to 5 for elected and department heads. This is the diversity, equity, and inclusion training conducted by Fayetteville County Human Relations Department. The training is centered around race and gender bias and is required of all staff, which will also be conducted annually. Finally, child advocacy, I can proudly announce that our training for the stewards of children training with the Child Advocacy Center is set for May 15th. I'll send out additional information they'll be here. I think it's going to be at 2. She hasn't confirmed that yet. She did confirm that it is.
What time Thursday?
This Thursday is from 1 to 5 for the DEI training, and it will be conducted here in Deepwater. That's it.
Okay.
Thank you.
All righty. Staff, any other staff comments?
This
No?
is a highly efficient meeting.
Chief
right.
Dolan.
Hey, Chief Fountain, you have something?
Yes, sir.
I know there's one more meeting beforehand, but we're hosting a bike rodeo May 12th right out here.
Okay.
We're going to be giving away some bicycles to people that need them, and we'll be cooking some hamburgers and hot dogs, issuing some helmets and some safety tips and stuff like that. So we'll also give the public an opportunity to register their bikes with us in case they're lost or stolen. This way we'll be able to track them if we find them by the registration. So
Okay.
I'll remind you again May 1st, but I just wanted to bring that up.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Anything else? Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to let everybody know, Hope Mills Chamber is holding our annual award ceremony on May 13th at VFW Fest 670.
May 13th.
We've had a lot of local businesses that were nominated for Best New Business, Business of the Year, and Best Nonprofit here locally. We're taking votes from everybody in the community, and we would love to see some support for the amazing businesses who go above and beyond for our town every day.
And it's also going to be themed 80s prom.
It is
80s prom. Yes, I will be wearing my 80s prom outfit.
Well, I wore Western gear in the 80s, okay?
Tacky.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
I don't think they have the clothes that would fit me that look the way they did back then.
Big collared shirts and corduroy pants.
Yeah.
All righty then. Do I have a motion?
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to go into closed session pursuant to NCGS 143-318-11A6 to discuss personnel matters and A3 attorney-client privilege.
Have a motion, have a second?
Second.
Have a motion in multiple seconds. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Seeing none opposed. We will be going for a closed session, and if you would like to remain, we'll try to hurry, be back as quick as possible. But we appreciate everyone being here, and especially appreciate the scouts being here this evening. And I do, again, want to get their names so that we can follow up with that certificate for them for being here. And thank you so much.
I'll bring snacks.
Don't you forget Saturday morning, 10 o'clock. Let somebody know you're there.
This time I'll call our meeting back to order. Do I have a
Madam Mayor, I'd
motion?
like to make a motion to seal the minutes of the closed session to such time as the release of the information would no longer frustrate the purpose of the closed session and further no action was taken.
Second.
Motion is second. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Seeing none opposed. Next motion we got?
All right, Jerry's yours.
Motion to adjourn.
All right.
You shocked me.